Jai Hind students, today we are going to study Chapter 9 of Indian Economic Development, Environment and Sustainable Development. So as you know that growth and development solve many problems, but growth has its attendant evils also. Industrialization is essential for growth, but it creates problems like environmental degradation, deforestation, overcrowding in cities, etc. Any development that destroys the environment is not sustainable. So, sustainable development is development that can sustain itself. It is environment friendly. Global warming and ozone depletion lead to environmental degradations. Hence, we should first understand the significance contributions of environment to economic development. So let's see that. Environment is defined as total planetary inheritance and the totality of all resources. So we can just define the environment as the total planetary. So it is inheritance of totality of all resources. So we can just say that the sum total of all external factors that surround us will consist under environment. So environment has been divided into two elements which are biotic elements and abiotic elements. Biotic factors are living things, animals, birds, vegetations, etc. comes under biotic things. So abiotic things, non-living things like air, water, land, rocks, sunlight, etc. comes under abiotic elements as you had studied in your small classes. And some functions of environment. So environment has four functions. Environment supply resources, environment assimilates waste or absorbs waste, environment sustain life by providing genetic and biodiversity, environment provides aesthetic services. So these are the functions of environment. So first function is environment supplies resources. All resources we use are supplied by the environment, as you know, and we can just classify it into two: renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources are those that can be renewed, that is their supply will not be exhausted, and we can use continuously and regenerate it. For example, renewable resources we can say as water, air, sunshine, plants, fisheries and trees, etc. These are renewable resources. Next is we can say that non-renewable resources are those that cannot be renewed, they cannot be regenerated. Their supply will be exhausted with use. For example of non-renewable resources are coal, petroleum, minerals, etc. Next if function is environment assimilates or absorbs waste. So the environment has the ability to absorb waste. Many organic waste that we throw out are absorbed by the soil and converted into manure, as you know. So next is environment sustain life by providing genetic and biodiversity. So human life is supported and sustained by biological system like crop, land, and oceanic fisheries, freshwater system and forest. So life is possible because of the genetic diversity and biodiversity provided by the environment, as you know. So that is, it sustains, or we can just keep our life for preserved in a preserved form for our future coming generations to be used. So that is sustained life. So next point is provides aesthetic services. From space, the Earth appears as a beautiful blue planet, as you know. So the Earth provides beautiful breathtaking sceneries, mountains, rivers, birds, animals, flowers are all great aesthetic delights. So these are the some of the functions. So environment, we by aesthetic means beauty. We can see by just seeing the beauty of our environment, we can just live by without anything. So such a great environment that we are having with the mountains, rivers, birds, animals, flowers, etc. So it's the four functions of environment that we know. The environmental systems have a carrying capacity. If the utilization of resources is within the use of carrying capacity, utilization can be sustainable. So, but if utilization levels exceeds the carrying capacity, the environment is degraded. This leads to environmental crisis. So that is known as what? Carrying capacity. So we can just divide our environmental system into two. We have another two functions that we can say, that carrying and absorptive capacity. So the environment is able to perform its function without any interruptions, as long as the demand on these functions is within its carrying capacity. So carrying capacity means to fulfill the following conditions. So extraction of resources should be less than the rate of regeneration of resources. So the extraction means what and all things that we are taking or utilizing from our resources, that the environment that is with us. So it should be in a minimized form. So it should be minimized, or should be less than the rate of the regeneration of resources. So we have to put put certain resources for our future needs also. We should not exceed our what utilization. So it becomes after, if the regenerating capacity or the things that have been kept for future uses that are not restored or kept aside, we are exploiting our resources. So the environment is degraded, we can say that. So it should be in such a manner that the environment should we should lead the environment to carry for further future needs. So certain portions of our environment should be kept aside for our future needs. So that is known as what? A carrying capacity for future. So waste generated are within the assimilating capacity of the environment. So absorption capacity of the environment also should be seen. So we should not generate more waste in our economy or in our environment, so that our environment should not be polluted. So that is the condition. So if these conditions are not fulfilled, then environment fails to sustain life and results in an economic crisis. It is because of the rising population of developing countries and the affluent consumption and production standards of developed world have placed a huge stress on the environment. So in terms of its two functions of supplying resources and absorbing waste, we have to say that the two functions, if we are telling about absorbing capacity, it means the environment has a capacity to absorb degradation. So when pollution level of and waste generation exceeds the tolerance limit, the environment gets damaged or degraded, and many rivers have dried up, lakes and ponds damaged, and soil poisoned due to reckless exploitation. So humanity is nearing a devastating environmental crisis. So that is due to what? Rising population of our countries. We are not concentrating on our environment, and the absorbing capacity of our environment will be lost, and our environment will be degraded. So these are the two points to be noted when our environmental conditions are not fulfilled truly. It may be due to the following conditions, that our environment is exploited. So first is the rising population of the developing countries and the affluent consumption and production standards of a developed world. So production standards means by industrial waste and all, it may be our environment will be what exploited, or the pollution may be coming up of the industrial waste and all. So many resources have become extinct, and the waste and generated are beyond the absorptive capacity of the environment. So we, our earth has an absorptive, environment has an absorptive capacity. So we can see that some if an organic waste has been disposed in the soil, so we can see it is degrading, and after some days it is absorbing, the environment is, the soil is absorbing all the waste, and the organic waste that we are, organic things that we are throwing out, that it is not seen in our soil. So that is known as what, the absorptive capacity. So absorptive capacity means the ability of the environment to absorb degradation. So the degradation of waste and degradations and all are absorbed, having an absorptive capacity for the environment to. So reasons for environmental crisis. So what are the reasons for the environmental crisis? First is global warming, second is ozone depletion, overuse and misuse of environmental resources, opportunity cost of negative environmental impact, demand reversal of environmental resource. So these are some of the causes of environmental crisis. So first is global warming. Global warming is a gradual increase in the average temperature of Earth's lower atmosphere as a result of increase in greenhouse gases since the industrialization. So you can say that since industrialization, industries have been came to existence. So we can say that it is caused by man-made increase in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases through the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation. So what are the greenhouse gases? Greenhouse gases are gases that absorb heat. So after absorbing heat, the release of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane etc. are the are said to be what, greenhouse gases. So it is caused by man-made increase in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases through the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation. So fossil fuels means coal, petroleum etc. And the trees have been burned. So these are the causes of global warming. So during the past centuries, the atmosphere temperature has risen by 1.1 Fahrenheit, and the sea level has risen several inches. So these have been came to came to be noted after the this this effect that is being, that is global warming, that we are telling. So that had came to existence, and melting of polar ice resulting in rise of sea level and coastal flooding, and disruption of drinking water supplies dependent on snow melts, then extinction of species. So these are some of the after effects that had come after the global warming. So we can say that in 1997, a UN conference on climate change was held in Kyoto, Japan, and it resulted in an international agreement of a fight of global warming by reducing the emission of greenhouse gases by industrialized nations. So this protocol is known as what, Kyoto Protocol. So this protocol calls for the reduction in greenhouse gases emissions by industrialized countries. So it was on the basis of the country, the Japan, the place known as Kyoto, the conference has been held. The name has been said as Kyoto Protocol. So next is what, the ozone depletion. Ozone depletion refers to the phenomenon of a reduction in amount of ozone in the stratosphere. So reduction in the amount of ozone is a very crucial global environmental issue, as the ozone layer protects the earth from the ultraviolet rays of the sun. So ozone depletion is caused by high level of chlorine and bromine compounds in the stratosphere. So as a result of ozone depletion, more ultraviolet radiations reaches the earth and harms the living organisms, and it causes skin cancers in humans, affects adversely the aquatic organisms, lowers the growth of terrestrial plants, etc. So the like a Kyoto protocol, we can say that Montreal protocol was introduced, is designed to protect the ozone layer by stressing ban on the use of ozone depleting chemicals. So some bans have been mm, came into existence. So for reducing the certain chemicals in use, so which causes the ozone depletion. So next is overuse and misuse of environmental resources. So overuse and of environmental resources occurs when demand of environmental resources is much more than their supply. So this happens when regeneration of the resources is less, that their extraction is more. If it would create problems like deforestation and land degradation. So deforestation make, if we want the wood, that is the tree in need of certain things to be made, that is papers and all, or furnitures and all. If the need is, the demand is high, but the supply is less, that is our land exploitation is more. So we are going and going cutting the trees, and we are not planting the trees in return. So as a result, what happens, the overuse of environmental resources will harm our environment, or our the human wants. So misuse of environmental resource occurs when atmosphere is harmed by us by not controlling the amount of harmful chemicals, compounds like chlorine and bromine, greenhouse gases, etc. in the atmosphere. It may also result in the environmental degradation. So it would create problems like global warming and ozone depletion, as I said. So next point is for opportunity cost of a negative environmental impact. So opportunity cost of negative environmental impacts refers to the cost we have to pay due to harm caused to the environment. So the past development has polluted and dried up rivers and other aquifers, making water an economic good. So the intensive and extensive extraction of resources has exhausted some of these environmental resources, and we have to spend huge amounts of technology and research to explore new resources. So by extraction of the inward, that is ourselves as well, and other outward extraction, the other countries also extracted our resources. As a result, our technology was not able to regenerate or reuse the present environmental resources. So it has been exhausted by continuous using. So that is the thing. So the past development has polluted and dried up rivers, and the intensive and extensive extraction of resources has exhausted some of these environmental resources, and we have to spend huge amounts on technology and research to explore new resources instead of the old one. So we do have to incur a lot of health costs of this degraded environment quality. So decline in air and water quality. So because of pollution, so some major diseases like cancer and all have been caused due to these pollutants in our atmosphere. So has resulted in increased incidence of respiratory and waterborne diseases. So global environmental issues such as global warming and ozone depletion also contribute to increased financial commitment for the government. So government also have to spend a lot of amount for the uh, re, uh, for reintroducing these resources, or finding alternatives for the present resources that have been extracted from the environment. So that has to be reintroduced. So alternative steps have to be taken. So that is known as opportunity cost of negative environmental impacts. So next is supply demand reversal of environmental resources. So prior to industrialization and phenomenal increase in population, the demand for environmental resources was much lesser than their supply. So this implies that pollution was within the absorptive capacity of the environment, and the rate of resources extraction was less than the rate of regeneration of these resources. But with the industrialization and faster growth of population, situation has changed. So now the rate of resources extraction is more than the rate of regeneration of these resources. So the demand for resources for both production and consumption went beyond the rate of regeneration of these resources. This leads to heavy pressure on the absorptive capacity of the environment, and this has resulted in reversal of supply demand relationship of for environmental quality. So now the supply is less than demand of environmental resources. So shortage of supply is because of overuse and misuse of resources. Hence the environmental issues of waste degradation, waste generation, and pollution has become critical in recent times. So the state of India's environment, next topic. So natural resources of India that we are going to see. India has abundant natural resources in terms of rich quality of soil, hundreds of rivers and tributaries, and the black soil of Deccan Plateau is particularly suitable for cultivation, and the Indo-Gangetic plains and spread from the Arabian Sea to the Bay of Bengal are one of the most fertile, intensively cultivated and densely populated regions in the world. So densely populated means which are suitable for the lifespan. So next, India's forests provide green cover for a majority of its population and a natural cover for the wildlife. So large deposit of iron ore, coal, natural are found in the country. So the bauxite, copper, chromate, diamonds, gold, lead, lignite, manganese, zinc, uranium, etc. are also available in different parts of the country. So however, the development activities in India have resulted in pressure of its finite natural resources, besides creating impact on human health. So next is threat to India's environment, or we can say that environmental degradation. So the threat to India's environmental process, poverty, and we can say that environmental degradation and pollution, these are certain factors that we come across it. And we can say that the degradation, pollution, degradation of natural resources, biodiversity of loss, and management of fresh water and solid waste. So these have to be looked into. So environmental degradation refers to the quantitative and qualitative loss of natural resources in the course of production and consumption activity. So while we are undergoing production and consumption activity, certain causes have been it came into existence. As a result, our natural resources have been exploited. So these the challenges to the country's environment are pollution, degradation, and pollution, the degradation of natural resources, and biodiversity loss and management of freshwater and solid waste. These are some of the main thing. So pollution, under pollution we can say that we can see air pollution. Air pollution means presence of air pollutants in the air which harms the human beings. Next is water pollution. Water pollution means presence of waste in the water, and the quality of water destroys and which affects the adversely aquatic ecosystem. So noise pollution means a discomfort and irritation caused by unwanted sound. So degradation of natural resources means degradation of natural resources is a great danger to the productive capacity of economic development of the country. So it is classified into two: deforestation and land degradation. So deforestation, as you know, that continuous cutting of trees, forests, etc. So land degradation means, so the problems arise due to the deforestation and extraction of wood for fuel and fodder for cattle beyond sustainable levels, and shifting cultivation, and we can say the adoption of conservation, non-adoption of soil conservation, and excessive use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. These things may lead to the land degradation. So next is biodiversity loss. Biodiversity loss, the high density of population, livestock, and competing uses of land for agriculture, forestry, and human settlements, industries, etc. exert an enormous pressure on the country's finite resources, which put a strain on ecosystem, resulting in the extinction of plants and animal species. So it's known as what, biodiversity loss. So we are becoming a reason for the extinction of species, the rare species. So we can say that cutting of trees and all, or we are taking on into our settlement the places that we have for forest, and this has led to major cause for biodiversity loss. So next is causes for or factors of environmental degradation. So next is growth rate of population. High growth rate of population has adversely affect the environment. So next is increasing urbanization. As population is increasing in urban areas due to migration and all, it has led to human settlements and township and other civic amenities that have been brought into existence. So as a result, we are degrading or cutting off the trees, or our environment has been lost from that. So next is rapid industrialization. With the economic reforms, industrial sector has progressing faster, and industrial waste, chemical smokes, etc. creates health problems. So industrialization has brought along unwanted and unanticipated consequences such as unplanned urbanization and pollution, and risk of accidents, etc. Next is fourth point is poverty. So there is widespread of poverty in India due to illiteracy and unemployment, and when these poor people fail to find jobs, they depend on activities like cutting trees for fuel wood, and they also sell it in local markets. So it also really leads to the environmental degradation. So fifth point is increase in pollution. So the various pollutions, you know, air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, and this may also lead to our environmental degradation and health problems. So next is increase in use of insecticides, pesticides and fertilizers. So to increase agricultural productivity, chemical fertilizers have been introduced. As a result, it adversely affects the environment by causing soil erosion and other long-term adverse effect on fertility of soil. So these chemicals may lead to the low productivity, and the environment may also be affected by this. And massive overuse and misuse of environmental resources. Overuse and environmental resources is when their demand is more than their supply. It would result in problem of deforestation and land degradation. So misuse of environmental resources is when we fail to protect it and harm it with the harmful gases, substances and compounds. So it may lead to the global warming and ozone depletion. Measures to control the environmental degradation. So population control, to control population, then pollution controls have to be made, then eradication of poverty has to be made, and creating awareness among masses, that is for environmental degradation, about environmental degradation and what are the challenges that have been faced by that has to be informed for through educational system and all, so that the environmental degradation can be stopped. Next, management of a solid waste. So there should be planned management of the solid waste, and developing urban areas. So migration of people from rural to urban areas should be stopped. So such that the gatherings, the slums like that places cannot be developed, and our economy can be self-sustained. And a suitable pattern of economic growth. So the pattern adopted to achieve economic development should be environment friendly, which does not deplete natural aspects. So that has to be touched, and the measures which combine command and control methods to protect the environment should be initiated. So government should initiate such policies which aim restoration of degraded environment, like forestation, planting trees and all, and regulation of industries, town planning, cleaning water, and disposal of sewage, and trade effluents. So next is adopting sustainable development. So the concern of for future generation along can make development last forever. So development to enhance our current living style without concern for prosperity future, so will deplete resources. So various measures adopted by the Ministry of Environment and the central government and state pollution control boards may not yield a reward unless we continuously adopt a path of sustainable development. So hence sustainable development should be adopted for secure livelihood for our future generations. So what is sustainable development? The UN Conference of Environment and Degradation, that is UNCED, defines sustainable development as a development that meets the need of present generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So as conclusion we can say that we have to use the resources in a precise manner, such that our future generation can also get a fulfillment, their fulfillment of the resources that we have. So next is features of sustainable development. So first feature is sustained rise in per capita income and economic welfare. So sustainable development aims at a potential average quality of life for all present and future generation. So this will be possible only if there is sustained rise in per capita income. So per capita availability of goods and services should increase along with the economic welfare over time. So per capita income has to be increased over time. So next is ability of future generation to meet their needs. So sustainable development emphasizes on protecting the future generation. So it means that we should leave to the next generation a stock of quality of life assets no less than what we have inherited. So we have to preserve certain assets for our future generations also. Rational use of environmental resources. It refers to efficient and rational use of environmental resources. So this can be done only by if regenerating capacity of a world's natural ecological system is preserved. So rate of depletion of a non-renewable resources should not be exceed the rate of creation of renewable substitutes for them. So we have to create a new findings or new creations have to be made for finding the renewable resources by precise use of non-renewable resources. So control on pollution. So sustainable development targets that inefficiencies arising from pollution should be corrected. So this is in order to enhance the natural and build the environment in ways that are compatible with the conservation of natural assets for better quality of life for future generations. Next is steps and strategies for sustainable development. So certain steps are according to Herman Daly, a leading environmental economist, the following needs to be done to achieve sustainable development. So first is limiting the human population to a level within the carrying capacity of the environment. Second is technological progress should be input efficient and not input consuming. So by input in technological progress should be input efficient and not input consuming. That is financially no assistance should be made for further technological progresses and the resources that we have with us, it should be uh, made efficiently utilized. So that is the second point. Next, third point, renewable resources should be extracted on a sustainable basis. That is, rate of extraction should not exceed rate of generation. So extraction should be reduced and regeneration should be emphasized. So that is third point. Fourth is for non-renewable resources, rate of depletion should not exceed the rate of creation of a renewable substitute. So we have to make a substitute instead of renewable substitute of renewable resources instead of non-renewable resources depletion. So next is inefficiencies arising from pollution should be corrected. So these are the certain points that has been said by Herman Daly. So as general in our economy, what is the condition? So what we are doing, that we are going to see is that strategies for sustainable development, use of non-conventional sources of energy. So India depends on thermal and hydropower plant to meet its power requirements, but both of these have adverse environmental impacts. So thermal power plants emit large quantities of carbon dioxide and produce fly ash, so which cause pollution of water bodies, land and other components of environment if not used properly. Hydroelectric projects inundate forest and interfere with the natural flow of water in catchment areas and the river basins. So wind power and solar rays are cleaner and greener energy sources which can effectively replace the thermal and hydropower if a technological progress can be made to explore them on a large scale. So instead of these hydroelectricity projects and all, wind power and solar power has to be introduced, and other things have been has to be removed. That is the suggestions. So second is encouraging use of cleaner fuel. So rural areas, we can say that households generally use wood, dung cake and other biomass as fuel. This consumption pattern has negative impact on like reduction in green cover, air pollution and deforestation, etc. So to solve these problems, government provides subsidized LPG in rural areas, and LPG is a clean fuel and it reduces household pollution to a large extent. So energy waste is also minimum. So in urban areas, motorized vehicles create air pollution and have the maximum negative impact on general health of population. So in urban areas, the use of compressed natural gas, that is CNG as fuel, is in public transport system has significantly lowered air pollution. So third is wind power. In areas where speed of wind is usually high, windmills can provide electricity without any adverse impact on environment. So wind turbines move with the wind, electricity is generated. So next is solar power through photovoltaic cells. So India is naturally endowed with a large quantity of solar energy in the form of sunlight. We use it in different ways. For example, we dry our clothes, grains, other agricultural products as well as various items made of daily use. And we also use sunlight to warm ourselves in winter, and plants use solar energy to perform photosynthesis. Now with the help of photovoltaic cells, solar energy can converted into electricity. So these cells use special kind of material to capture solar energy and then convert the energy into electricity. So this technology is extremely useful for remote areas and for places where supply of power through grid or power lines in either not possible or proves very costly. So this technique is also totally free and free from pollution. So this technology has to be implemented all over India, we can say. So next is setting of mini hydel plants. In mountainous regions, streams can found almost everywhere. A large percentage of such streams are perennial, and mini hydel plants use the energy of such streams to move small turbines, and the turbines generate electricity which can be used locally. So such power plants are environment friendly as they do not change the land use pattern in areas where they are located. So they do not need large scale transmission towers and cables and avoid the transmission loss. So these types of mills has to be introduced in mountainous areas. Next is traditional knowledge and practice. So in older times, Indian people used to be close to their environment, and they have been more component of environment and not its controller. So all their production and consumption activities were, whether in agriculture system or healthcare system, housing, transport, etc., were environment friendly. So with the modernization, we have drifted away from the traditional systems and caused a large scale of damage to the environment also. So with the western system of treatment getting popular, we were ignoring our traditional systems such as Ayurveda, Unani, Tibetan and folk systems. So these healthcare systems are in demand again, for treating chronic health problems, people have started demanding organic and herbal products, for example, toothpaste, hair oils, and face creams, etc. So these products are environment friendly and relatively free from side effects. So these are to be used. Next is biocomposting. There has been an increase in use of chemical fertilizers to enhance agriculture productivity and neglected the use of compost. So this has resulted in large tax of unproductive land and contaminated water bodies, including groundwater. So a large number of farmers have become aware of use compost made from organic waste to different types. And in some parts of our country, cattle dung is used as a fertilizer and a soil conditioner. So earthworms can convert organic material into compost faster than normal composting process. So the process of converting organic material into compost is now being widely used to by most farmers. Indirectly, civic authorities are benefited also, as they have to dispose reduced quality of waste. Next point is biopest control. So the advent of green revolution led to use more and more chemical pesticides for higher production. This causes adverse impact like a pollution of water bodies and groundwater, contamination of food products like milk, meat, etc. To meet this challenge, efforts have been initiated to use better methods of pest control. One such step is the use of pesticides based on plant products. So neem trees are very effective, as neem based pesticides are environment friendly. So mixed crops and growing different crops in consecutive years on the same land have also helped farmers. Next, organic farming. Increased use of chemical fertilizers, insecticides, and pesticides to help in increasing the production, but it would lead to pollution and other harm to our environmental resources. So, organic farming promotes soil health. It uses organic inputs for cultivation, and it discards the use of chemical inputs which erode soil fertility. Thus, organic farming is sustainable to sustain an agricultural development. So, organic farming needs to be encouraged so that production capacity can be maintained for future generations. So, other measures we can say that can be used to help a sustainable development are recycling the waste into compost and manure. So creating awareness among masses about a rational use of environmental resources, and both producers and consumers should be conscious of environment friendly resources. So hope you understood what I have taught today. So if you have any doubt, please ask me. Thank you, students.